Welcome to the All Language Resources channel, where we review different resources to help you learn a new language. Would you like the chance to try premium resources in exchange for sharing your honest feedback? You can apply to be a tester from the link in the description box. In this video, we've rounded up some of our favorite YouTube channels for Japanese learners. We've also divided them into beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels. Of course, these divisions aren't always clear-cut. You'll see some channels repeated, and you can also expect the difficulty to fluctuate slightly within each level. However, we're certain you'll find plenty of interesting, educational, and entertaining YouTube channels on this list, no matter your level or personal interests. Let's start with YouTube channels for beginner Japanese learners. Whether you're an absolute beginner or finishing GENKI 2, you'll be in safe hands with this channel. MISA has uploaded 3 playlists for absolute beginners: Japanese characters, grammar lessons for absolute beginners, and new absolute beginner Japanese lessons. Once you're past the essentials, you can try her JLPT N5 and N4 playlists, her listening practice activities, and her playlists about vocabulary and slang. As well as being entertaining and in-depth, MISA's videos use a range of good teaching techniques, such as showing you incorrect Japanese and giving you time to identify the mistakes. Important words and phrases are written in Japanese script and Romaji with English translations beneath them, while color coding draws attention to important parts of the phrase. She also speaks Japanese a lot in the videos, giving you extra listening practice.
能力試験 N5 に必要な形。
This channel will take you through an N5 and N4 Japanese curriculum, teaching you grammar, vocabulary, and writing systems. The catch? It's all in Japanese, although there are English, Vietnamese, and Japanese subtitles. If listening and pronunciation are a priority for you, then this is a great channel to start with. You won't run out of content anytime soon either. There are hundreds of videos, all organized by theme and level. Within each video, the tutorials also progress logically. For example, this video introduces vocabulary, the months and the days of the month, then grammar structures, and then question phrases, before wrapping up with a practice session.
4月はあまり言いません。4月
Get ready to learn Japanese grammar, vocabulary, and culture from the charismatic Miku. She will teach you natural, casual Japanese phrases in addition to the textbook ones. Her videos also include lots of spoken, level-appropriate Japanese, whether it's a funny sketch or a bunch of example sentences. You'll practice your listening as well as learning Japanese grammar and vocabulary. Signing up to her Patreon will also grant you access to extra videos and Anki decks. Miku also uploads intermediate level content, including listening practice. However, most of her videos are targeted at beginners. She clearly signals the JLPT level in the video thumbnail or title. So don't worry, you won't find yourself suddenly overwhelmed by material that's too challenging.
宿題をしなければなりません。
This YouTube channel has a bit of everything and for nearly every level. Whether you're struggling with a grammatical concept or looking for interesting anime-inspired materials, you'll likely find something here. There are dedicated playlists for each JLPT level, although as a beginner, the ones that will most interest you are the writing systems, optional pre-JLPT studying aka survival Japanese, N5 level, and N4 level. The teacher gives comprehensive and clear explanations with plenty of examples. He's also pretty active in responding to questions in the comments.
And kind of just want to prove how much they know about the language as opposed to actually help people learn the language. You're likely...
Sarah Moon is a Japanese to English translator whose channel mixes Japanese lessons and tutorials with video essays on translation and anime. Oh, and she also adds a pinch of humor alongside lots of encouragement. There are heaps of tutorials to watch, but as a beginner, you should start with her Japanese for Beginners Genki Volume 1 playlist. It takes you through the same themes as the popular beginner level Genki textbooks, but with different example sentences and phrases. This means it works well as supplementary materials or a standalone resource.
Take hana no kaori. Hana is flower, kaori is like sweet smell. So hana no kaori.
Do you prefer the Mina no Nihongo textbooks to Genki? Try Nihongo's Mina no Nihongo playlists instead. Each textbook unit is broken down into 3 videos, one for vocabulary, one for grammar, and another for kanji. The lessons are well structured and the teacher, Rose, speaks clearly, although she's not a native Japanese speaker.
3 months, so pretty much I've learned Japanese.
If you're tempted by the idea of learning Japanese in Japanese but don't want to be too challenged, you might like Koto Academy's more recent beginner level videos. They're short and sweet, and while they're often in Japanese, the teachers use lots of repetition and pauses to help you out. These videos are less in depth than some of the others on this list, but you've still got plenty of material to choose from. There are over 50 N5 tutorials and roughly as many for N4 learners too. Plus, you'll find assorted videos on vocabulary, kanji, natural phrases, and more. The quality of the older videos can vary, but most of the newer videos are pretty good.
私はサッカーをしませんが、運動をします。
Not a fan of PowerPoint-style YouTube lessons? This channel might change your mind. Yuko Sensei has been teaching Japanese for 20 years and now offers free and paid-for online courses in addition to lessons on her YouTube channel. Nearly all her video lessons are on Japanese grammar, vocabulary, and scripts, with lots focused on particles and verbs. Color coding is used to help you understand the sentence structure, while most videos have text in kana and romaji. While Yuko Sensei has uploaded a small number of intermediate level video lessons, most of them are targeted at beginners, N5 and N4. She often mentions which chapter of the popular Genki textbook the topic corresponds to as well.
助数詞 in Japanese. You have to choose the correct counter and add it to
Japanese Pod 101 has hundreds of videos for you to watch. In fact, the hardest challenge might be sorting through all of them. There's a mixture of grammar, vocabulary, essential phrases, kanji, listening practice, reading comprehension, cultural information, study tips, and even practical guides for tourists and immigrants. And although most of Japanese Pod 101's content is for beginners, you'll also find some intermediate level content. If you like Japanese Pod 101 style, you can sign up for more videos along with podcast style lessons through their website.
Years ago. However, in the 11th century, the pronunciation changed. Did you listen to the lecture?
Here's another option to pair with your Genki studies. Tokini Andy has uploaded a video for each chapter of Genki 1 and 2 to help you expand your understanding of the topic. He's also a Japanese learner but has achieved conversational fluency. The videos are slow-moving and contain occasional tangents, but they'll introduce you to extra vocabulary, sample sentences and dialogues, as well as giving you additional practice at listening to the target language. Plus, Andy shares some extra tips to help you understand Japanese grammar and sound more natural. And if you sign up to his Patreon, you'll also get access to additional videos and tests.
That goes, don't worry, should be easy. So, an example of this would be boku wa.
Ever felt like you understood every single thing when the teacher was talking, only to realize after the video or lesson ended that you didn't know how to actually use the grammar or vocabulary. The reason is often a lack of example sentences and structured practice. Japanese by Chunking may not be the most engaging channel, but there are lots of example sentences and some exercises for you to do too. What's more, the example sentences are translated into Spanish and Portuguese as well as English. There's also heaps of content like grammar playlists for different JLPT levels, a playlist for Japanese phrases targeted at N5 and N4 learners, onomatopoeia, Japanese folktales for beginner students, and more.
One thing you have to keep in mind is that these forms are
In this channel, you'll find recordings of live lessons for all levels, N5 up to N1. What's more, these lessons are conducted almost entirely in Japanese, meaning you'll get plenty of listening practice. These aren't the most dynamic of YouTube videos. You'll see Ako-sensei talking in the top right-hand corner while a PowerPoint presentation takes up most of the screen. However, they're well organized, contain plenty of example sentences, and are a good way to brush up on specific topics. You'll be prompted to make your own sentences, and there are also review quizzes.
はい、N3 と N4、これは
You've probably come across Taekim's Japanese grammar guide, which is famed for being comprehensive and easy to understand. So as you might expect, Taekim's YouTube channel has a strong focus on Japanese grammar. It's worth mentioning that some people complain of oversimplifications and linguistic errors in Taekim's tutorials. Treat them as helpful, learner-friendly breakdowns of key points rather than as the Japanese learner's Bible. The videos generally break down a concept with clear explanations, provide samples, and then give you some questions to check your comprehension. Afterward, Taekim will explain how you should have answered them and why. These are not the most engaging Japanese video lessons, and you will receive a lot of information in a short period of time. However, they will let you study Japanese topics in a condensed manner.
Formal, while Kedo is for a more casual or conversational situation. There's also an even more formal.
YouTube generally isn't the best way to learn kanji. After all, you can't learn to write just by watching. Most of the time, an app like Skritter or Kanji Study or a kanji textbook will be better. However, if you really want to learn kanji through YouTube, give this channel a go. The teacher starts off by explaining the kanji and later shows the stroke order. Most importantly, the video descriptions also contain links to the worksheet he uses so that you can print it and practice at home. The kanji is generally beginner level, although the teacher uses the elementary school system rather than the JLPT levels. He also speaks in both Japanese and English.
家ね house or
Let's now go through YouTube channels for intermediate Japanese learners. Eager to learn Japanese in Japanese? You might like SAMBON JUKU. Your teacher speaks in slow and easy to follow Japanese while breaking down Japanese grammar. The channel has dedicated playlists for JLPT N3 and N2, as well as a playlist dedicated to topics like onomatopoeia, different ways to say very, non-textbook readings, and more.
使います。例えば動詞
Get ready to drown in content. This prolifically updated channel has been around since 2013. Although there are a handful of clearly marked beginner-level videos, most of them are targeted at intermediate and advanced students, and they're entirely in Japanese. You'll find tons of videos teaching Japanese grammar and vocabulary, as well as things like onomatopoeia. The teachers and teaching styles have changed over the years, so try a few of their series out to see who you get on best with.
勉強頑張りましょう。それでは始めていきます。一番最初。
We've already mentioned Japanese ammo with MISA in the beginner section, but don't write her channel off as being too easy or basic. She also has plenty of N3 level content, and she regularly dives into topics that are useful for all levels like pitch accents, Japanese literature, implicit meaning, and more. She's great at teaching natural Japanese, politeness levels from super casual to humble, and more.
Correct it. So, suwaru means to sit down, and
You've probably already taken a look at NHK Easy News, in which Japanese news stories are rewritten to an N3, N2 level. They're a great way to challenge your reading or listening skills, pick up new vocabulary, and expand your understanding of common Japanese phrases. Plus, they'll help you talk about Japanese current affairs. If you're struggling to read the NHK Easy News stories, however, take a look at Foxumon's channel. She translates the articles word by word, and in older videos, she also explains the grammar and vocabulary use. It's a good way to get used to the style of the news story.
All the vocabulary, all the grammar, and then after that, I will play the reading one more time.
We've already mentioned Sarah Moon's channel in the beginner section. She's a Japanese to English translator who uploads a mixture of lessons and video essays on translation and anime. Intermediate learners with a love for Sailor Moon will want to check out her Watch Sailor Moon Learn Japanese series. Meanwhile, the videos on translation are nearly entirely in English, but often focus on how to interpret the tone and nuance of certain Japanese phrases. They won't be the most productive use of your study time, but if you're looking for some procrastinating learning, they're a fun option. Not only will you get insights into anime shows, but you'll likely pick up some tidbits of intermediate and advanced level Japanese.
So Mikazuki is a crescent moon. No, so the no in this case is turning Mikazuki into an...
Welcome to the YouTube page of the Tokyo and Yokohama-based Japanese language school, Koto Academy. You'll find plenty of intermediate level lessons here with dedicated JLPT N3 and N2 playlists. Upper intermediate students might be annoyed by some videos that have English subtitles that you can't turn off. Plus, you'll need to drill the material in your own time. However, these video tutorials generally provide succinct and clear introductions to the grammar points in question.
どんな意味だと思いますか? A.
Nervous about dipping your toe into intermediate level content? This channel is a gentle starting point. As well as Japanese lessons suitable for upper beginners and above, there's plenty of intermediate level listening practice. Whether it's a lesson or a listening exercise, every video is entirely in Japanese. Although there are accurate English or Japanese subtitles available if you want. The Japanese is slow and easy to understand, while the topics like the history of Shinto, Kabuki, or why anime is popular in Japan are interesting.
日本の文化について説明しています。まずは
This is another channel that made it onto the beginners list but also has plenty to offer for intermediate learners. There are dedicated playlists for JLPT N3 and N2 plus an almost empty N1 advanced playlist. You'll find in-depth grammar explanations for topics such as transitive and intransitive verbs, lessons in key phrases, cultural insights such as the differences between male and female speech, a huge number of videos that break down the Japanese in anime, and even a curated playlist for listening practice. And as we already said, the breakdowns are clear and come with plenty of examples to help you wrap your head around the new concept.
that's just gonna be that verb word in its zu form, which I believe we have covered before.
We've already mentioned this channel under the beginner list, but there are N3 and N2 level grammar tutorials also uploaded. Plus, the all in Japanese vlogs will let you test your listening comprehension. In the grammar tutorials, the host teaches in English, so most learners will likely prefer other channels as lessons. However, Japanese by Chunking gets an honorable mention for translating example sentences into Spanish and Portuguese as well. Each video has a brief explanation, lots of example sentences, and then some exercises.
You need the masu form of a verb, but take off masu.
Ready to immerse yourself in Japanese? This YouTube channel contains Japanese language lessons, Q&As, interviews, and more. And with very few exceptions, it's all in Japanese, including the subtitles. Designed for intermediate and advanced students, this channel contains many challenging videos, so don't get demotivated if you're struggling with the material. Put that video to one side, try another, and come back to the original in a few months' time. You might be surprised by how much your Japanese ability has grown.
文法について説明したいと思います。また、話す
This prolifically updated YouTube channel contains tons of intermediate level listening comprehension. Each short and sweet video is completely in Japanese, well suited to N3 students and either relatable or interesting. Sometimes there are guests, but often it's a monologue. Noriko is a qualified and experienced Japanese teacher, so she knows how to manage the difficulty level. You can also read the script on her website. Each video contains the relevant link.
を表すんですね。多分雨だろう。おそらく雨だろう。
This YouTube channel has its pitfalls, but there's also plenty to like about it. Yuta, the channel host, asks Japanese people on the street specific questions like what social issues are you interested in and what does masculinity mean. English subtitles explain what the answers mean. On the other hand, you get lots of practice at listening to different people, and if you're struggling to follow the Japanese, the subtitles will help you out. On the other hand, it's easy to think you're studying more than you actually are. The subtitles can end up helping you out too much, distracting you from the Japanese audio, and you can't turn them off. You'll also find other content on this channel like Japanese anime breakdowns and analyses of how anime characters speak, Yuta's opinions on elements of Japanese culture, and reaction videos.
老後の問題とかですかね。まあそれこそ100歳まで生きるとか言われてるんで。
Get ready to hear more native Japanese speakers share their opinions. In this YouTube series, you'll listen along as people in Japan are asked about things like slang, Christmas, martial arts, and more. You'll get to practice your listening comprehension, pick up a new vocabulary, and glean insights into Japanese culture. The videos come with 3 sets of subtitles, Japanese, Romaji, and an English translation. While helpful, it can require discipline to not look just at the Romaji or the translation.
暖かい時。暖かい時。じゃあ今幸せだよね。寒いから。どう？
This weekly podcast will give you plenty of Japanese listening practice. The topics vary greatly from Japanese phrases to current events. But no matter what the episode is about, the focus is on using natural language rather than textbook phrases. Each episode is short and sweet, while the Japanese is slow and clearly enunciated. Plus, there are subtitles and free transcripts to help you follow what's being said or look up that new phrase you want to add to your flashcard decks.
仕事でもプライベートでもよく使われるこの言葉。
相手の様子を見て
Wishing you could attend Japanese classes? Ako-sensei might not offer live classes via YouTube, but she does upload recordings of her live lessons conducted almost entirely in Japanese, albeit often with written explanations in English. While not the most high-energy classes, they are well-structured and contain example sentences, practice activities, and review quizzes.
今パソコンの前で寝ていますね。はい。ではこの何々ばいいのにが今日の
Let's now check out YouTube channels for advanced Japanese learners. This channel bridges the gap between lessons and vlogs. Run by a Japanese teacher for upper intermediate and advanced students, it contains lessons, interviews, Q&As, snapshots of everyday Japanese life, and more. Most videos contain Japanese language subtitles, so you're not quite thrown into the deep end, but there's plenty to challenge you too.
どうですか？お元気ですか？
はい、元気です。ありがとうございます。今日は本当に
We've already mentioned this channel in the intermediate section, but advanced beginners will likely learn new things too. Short and sweet video tutorials will introduce you to N1 level concepts in less than 15 minutes, while the delivery is clear and well structured.
時間の話で使うことが多いです。例えば、以前、
We've already mentioned this channel in the intermediate section, but advanced beginners will likely learn new things too. Short and sweet video tutorials will introduce you to N1 level concepts in less than 15 minutes, while the delivery is clear and well structured.
はじめにこの文を読んでください。この店はサービスといい。
If you've ever struggled with Japanese pronunciation or the pitch accent, or are wondering what that even means, then this is the channel for you. Miss A. Sama has uploaded dozens of videos about how to pronounce specific phonemes and words, as well as ones explaining pitch accents, demonstrating them, and teaching words that follow specific pitch accents. You'll also find other fairly standard videos on how to use particular phrases, particles, tenses, and other aspects of Japanese grammar. These, however, are often more appropriate for beginner and lower intermediate students.
Often, Japanese textbooks say Japanese pronunciation is flat.
Curious about traditional Japanese artisanry? This channel contains short documentaries about many of Japan's inherited artistic traditions and the people who continue doing them today. As documentaries, the Japanese tends to be slowly spoken and relatively easy to understand, although they also include more specialist terms. They often feature interviews too.
祭りの象徴、絢爛豪華な
If you regularly fall down the Wikipedia rabbit hole, you're going to love this channel. The high-energy, enthusiastic, and always well-informed host sets out with a whiteboard and pen to give you a lecture lasting anywhere from 25 minutes to 3 hours. Whether it's science, history, literature, economics, or even anime, you'll find yourself learning plenty more than just Japanese here.
これが日本史のすごいモヤモヤするところなんですよ。どうも中田敦彦です。さあ。
You don't have to be in Japan to watch Japanese TV clips, thanks to the public broadcaster NHK's YouTube channel. Unfortunately, videos tend to be just a few minutes long, just enough to give you a taster of the TV show, but not enough for you to lose yourself in them. However, the channel is updated multiple times a day and there's a wide variety of topics.
波や紫外線の影響で5ミリ以下に
If you're easily distracted by viral videos on Facebook, then we apologize now. You're going to spend far too long binging on this clickbait-filled channel. It contains riddles, life hacks, facts, how-to videos, and more. But like all forms of clickbait, you should carefully fact-check the videos before believing everything they tell you.
を終えて帰宅します。一日中考えていたお気に入りのチョコをやっと食べることができる。
Some final thoughts. YouTube is a fantastic way to improve your Japanese, and these channels are just a starting point. As you get more confident with the language, search out channels and playlists that cater to your personal interests, whether that's Kobe Ben, history, or the Japanese car scene. If you enjoyed this review, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. And if you're looking for more information on any particular resource, be sure to check out our website, alllanguageresources.com, where we've tested out and written about hundreds of language learning resources.